Hi everyone, I read the book Knowing Your Value, and some of you might recognize Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe. And so this book was about money, women, and kind of getting what you're worth and knowing that as you go into a position. So while it was really easy to read this book and take it at face value, things like the money gap and like gender pay difference, things like that. It was also about a lot more than that. It talked about things ranging from motherhood to what you wear to how men treat you. So all of it was really interesting and incredibly enlightening. Especially for me, since I'm about to graduate and be completely fully immersed in the working world of business, I felt like it gave me a better start to having the confidence in myself at the workplace. So for me, it was something that while reading this book, I can be like, oh, wow, that makes sense. But it's harder to put into practice. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to read this and really understand where a successful businesswoman such as Mika has come from and how she has gotten there. So beyond just the overall takeaway of how amazing the book was, I also had three different takeaways that I thought really stuck with me and I want to try to incorporate into my own life. So the first one was that she talked about the trials of being women. And I know that a lot of us don't think of it that way, like we're very proud to be women and we take that for what it's worth and we bring as much as we can to the different jobs. However, in the book, it talks a lot about how she had to be more aware of how she looked, how her hair looked, what she was wearing, how her makeup looked, were the colors right, all these things that men don't have to think about. It even mentioned in the book how she would get up at 3:30 in the morning to do the show while her co-host, Joe Scarborough, I believe it is, he would get up at 4:45 and just roll out of bed. So something that we as women don't think of as a trial of how we look and what we wear was something that was an additional job on top of her actually reporting the news and doing the job. And so when it came, she was actually paying for all these things on her own, the new clothes, the new makeup. Yet when she went to her producers, she was still apologetic for like going into it saying, I'm sorry that to bother you, or I hope this isn't a bad time, and then explain to them that she was paying for this and she wanted to be able to do more. She felt she deserved more. So going into that being like she was doing nothing wrong but still being apologetic really hit home, because I think sometimes I have the mindset that I go into a situation being like, I'm sorry to bother you. So seeing someone, a successful businesswoman again, feel the same way was really interesting and made me realize it's not as uncommon as I think. So the second takeaway was that the women are our own worst enemy, and I am a complete advocate of this. I just actually got my first job earlier this year, and I have no regrets about taking it, but looking back, it's now something where I'm like, oh, didn't believe that I could get a job come May, and that I was worried about it, so I decided to take a first job, and it was a job. And I felt the same way. There's a quote from Valerie Jarrett in this book that says, I felt like if I was deserving, then my boss should recognize that I was deserving. And I think a lot of times I get in that mindset of, oh, I'm just going to work harder, I'm going to do more, they'll notice, and then I'll get a raise. And that's not always the case. And then to hear Sheryl Sandberg quoted in the book saying, I just felt lucky to have this opportunity, that really summed up how sometimes I feel when taking on any job and going into any situation. So again, just something really enlightening to hear these huge business women talking about how they felt the same way as us and what we're going through in the class and in our normal jobs. Finally, the What Men Know chapter was really interesting to me because I think throughout this class we've established that men and women are very different. And we think different, we act different, and like I said, all of us are very proud to be on our way to success and have these entrepreneurship ideas. And I know I felt honored to be in this class with all these people with ideas. However, this chapter really opened my eyes to how it doesn't have to be a bad thing that we're so different. Having that male and female mix, you can really learn a lot, not only from women, but from men as well. And I think we've learned that with a lot of the speakers who have come in, is that their mentors have been men. And Mika talks about it too, like many of the reasons why she's successful is because she was able to take the advice of men or learn from their mistakes or the way they worked and move on from there. So one of the quotes also in the book says that men can essentially act very entitled. And I think that I don't ever want to step in that land, but you do have to know what you deserve and be willing to ask for it. And so kind of to summarize is that this book was really interesting to me because a lot of times I don't think many of us know our value as a person, much less a business person. So talk about our value chart that we do in class is incredibly important, and essentially this book lays out how you should know your value and the different ways it can be important as well. So I would definitely recommend Knowing Your Value to anyone else who would like to read it. Thank you.